Hi, I'm Nicole Christina. I am the host of Zestful Aging Podcast, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm a specialist in aging well over the lifespan. I am so glad you're here, and it is my sincere hope that you will learn valuable ways to feel more energized, optimistic, joyful, and creative now, and to set yourself up for vibrant aging in the future. I would strongly recommend that you find something to write notes on. I want you to get the most out of our time as possible. Just some note paper and a pencil will do. So I started getting interested in positive psychology and positive aging when a few years ago I noticed that my psychotherapy clients wanted to talk about their fears and uncertainties about aging and how their lives were changing substantially after they reached 50 years. And they wanted to talk to me about things like their kids leaving home, parents needing more care, and some of them were even reassessing their marriage. They were also starting to wonder about retirement and what they would do with themselves. They were basically asking, what now? Some didn't even know where to start. They could see that the future could be very open, there could be tremendous freedom, but of course there were big losses to deal with as well. It was all new, and there didn't seem to be any map because of our parents lived very different older lives than most of us do now. So you may already know that our country and the world are facing a whole new shift in the number of older people. It's been out in the news for a while. We're really breaking new ground with this demographic. So I decided to dive into the research on what keeps us well over middle age, and I learned a lot from over 300 podcast interviews as well as my clients. And I've been asking myself some of these questions as well. Many people are discovering that being over 50 is kind of a double-edged sword. There's a newfound freedom to do things you've always wanted to do, but we're too busy taking care of your family and performing at work. And now we seem to find ourselves with more time, but there are also new challenges to deal with: the loss of youth, the fact that our physical body is changing in ways we probably don't like. Our friends may be retiring out of town, and we may be taking care of our parents or our loved ones. So this new phase is really all about readjustment and calibration, and it offers a whole new opportunity to recreate ourselves. So today I'm going to be sharing some of the tools that have been proven to set you up for physical and emotional wellness right now and in your future. Today, you're going to learn about how what you do today has the power to significantly improve the rest of your life and even increase your years of health. And that's also known as health span. Health span focuses on how long you're healthy, not just how long you're alive, because what good is living a long life if you're not healthy? We all know that health is the foundation to everything. So I'm going to lay out some keys to a long health span that you can start using right away. In addition to my work as a psychotherapist and a podcaster, the lifestyle habits I'm going to talk to you about today are taken from a number of scientific studies. They're not just taken off of Facebook. You may have heard of the Harvard Study of Adult Development. It is the longest study on aging to date. It's about 80 years now. Of course, they keep changing primary investigators. It's been going on for such a long time. Many of us don't realize how much power we have over how we age. Here's a bit of a shocker. 80% of chronic illness is lifestyle related. What that means is that we make choices every single day that either increase our health span or decrease it. The little choices we make every day add up to a big difference. If you're going to age well, you need to start investing in your physical and mental health right now. I'm going to teach you some practical, clear, and immediately usable tools that would help you create and sustain the health that makes life worth living. So adopting these behaviors today are an investment in being mobile, active, and engaged in your older years. And don't worry, we're not going to be talking about crazy fads or extreme diets or workouts. You already know, if you've been following my work, that I don't subscribe to anything extreme or unpleasant because it's not sustainable. My goal is to help you feel better now and set you up for a longer period of health as you age, which means that instead of this kind of gradual downhill slide of deterioration, we're really healthy up to the very end. And isn't that what we all want? There's a pithy saying in the world of aging studies: we want to be healthy, 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 and dead, with a very short period of illness. I think that's what most of us are hoping for. So let's begin. Take a guess now. What increases our chances of being healthy now and as we age? Do you have any idea? Well, it might be surprising that one of the most important factors in aging well is your attitude about getting older. How do you feel about aging? How do you feel about being on the other side of middle age? What are your thoughts and beliefs about your friends aging? And have you considered how what you believe about aging has a significant impact on how your body ages? If we expect a slow and depressing decline, guess what? Those expectations have a real effect on our health. There are losses, to be sure. Kids leaving home, parents needing more attention. Your career may still be demanding a lot of your energy. But if we can remind ourselves to focus on the potential for growth, adventure, and freedom, we're going to have a totally different experience. So it's really a matter of where you want to shine the light of your attention. And that might take a little practice because our brains naturally tilt towards the negative. So as much as we can, maintaining a mindset of optimism will have a positive effect on your mind and your body. Many of the researchers that I've interviewed on my podcast have established this fact beyond a doubt. So how much difference does your attitude about aging actually make? Well, you may be surprised. I know I was. People who have positive perceptions on aging live, on average, 7.5 years longer than the people who don't, according to Yale professor Becca Levy. And that's why it's very important to be aware of your own thoughts and beliefs about getting older. So let's just take a look at this a little bit closer. Considering the following questions. What do you say to yourself about getting older? It's really important to listen. How do you feel when someone asks your age? Do you ever lie about your age? As the first step in your positive aging plan, can you commit to recognizing and challenging your negative beliefs about getting older? This will go a really long way in promoting your healthy aging. So besides having a positive attitude, what else helps us thrive after age 50? Well, I know we've all heard a lot about the importance of diet and exercise. It's all over the media, but it's quite confusing, and I'm sure you've seen that there's contradictory advice. We do know exercise helps our brain stay young and keeps our body supple. It really is a use it or lose it situation, but you do not have to have a gym membership or go to a spinning class. Movement like gardening, mowing, stretching, walking, and swimming go a long way in keeping your body flexible and healthy. So think about this in terms of movement, not just what sort of the official exercise might look like. I'm actually a huge fan of the Rebounder, which is a mini trampoline. It's so fun. It's like having your own dance party. It's great for your joints and even your mood. There's a lot of controversy about getting 10,000 steps in, but everything you do to move is better than nothing. So please don't get caught up in all or nothing thinking. Exercise and movement are also great for mood and feeling calmer overall. Exercise helps stabilize blood sugar. These are all really important things. But it's important to find something you love to do. Our bodies are designed to move. They're happy to move. But moving your body should be fun and enjoyable. It shouldn't be another task to cross off the list or a punishment for eating. You're going to start to notice a theme here. Bringing in pleasure whenever possible. Because, and here's some really good news, pleasure is health promoting, and people who are happy live longer. So what about diet? Carbs, no carbs, gluten, grains. Oh my goodness, it's so confusing and it is so stressful. Never before in history has eating taken on such judgment. Is it clean? Is it fair trade? GMO, GMO-free, local? There's just so much to think about. As much as many of us look for specific diet do's and don'ts, or a magic supplement, balance and pleasure are the keys here. The practical common sense guidelines that most dietitians recommend include whole and unprocessed foods first and foremost, and eating a variety with an emphasis on fruits and vegetables, and paying attention to sugar. The latest research has exposed sugar as a real problem in contributing to all the major diseases, all of which are inflammatory. So if you're going to make changes that will benefit your aging body, focus on reducing sugar and processed foods. But don't stress out when you have junk food on occasion. It turns out the stress about eating something is more harmful than the actual bad food. It's really not helpful to put foods into good and bad categories, because what happens is if we eat a bad food, we tend to feel bad or guilty, and this is not helpful at all in maintaining healthy, nutritious, balanced diets most of the time. So far then, we have talked about developing a positive attitude and eating and exercising in a balanced, self-caring way. Now I'd like to share the results of the impressive Harvard study of adult development, which I mentioned a little earlier, the 80-year-old research study, which is the longest study on longevity to date. They really did not leave any stone unturned. We can understand many of the recommendations in this study if we keep in mind that we are mammals, primates actually, and as primates, our brains are hardwired for connection. And this little fact influences much of what we need to know to age well. You probably remember years ago in Eastern Europe, there were children in orphanages who were deprived of attention and touch. They simply didn't have enough staff to go around. Well, they developed attachment disorders, which is an inability to trust. They were deprived of a basic mammalian need, and that is love. Social networks are key. Finding a tribe where you feel a sense of belonging and connection, that's the magic stuff. That's the gold, the special sauce. It can't be emphasized enough. And it doesn't matter what the group is about. We're meant to be in the safety of a herd. Being alone isn't only uncomfortable, it's deadly. You may know that one of the worst punishments for humans is solitary confinement. In fact, some states are making that illegal now. People literally become psychotic when they don't have human contact. And if you take one thing from this talk, let it be the importance of human connection and bonding. Even making small talk with your mail carrier is health-inducing. I recently learned that in Holland, some grocery stores now have a slow checkout for people who would like to chat with the clerk. I'll have to check that out when I go to Holland in the spring. So let's continue with what else helps us stay well over 50. I know it's cliche, and know you've heard about it before, but gratitude is a vital part of aging well. It's a surefire way to feel happier. And it's one of my all-time favorite tools to promote general well-being and health. Appreciating, savoring, and recognizing what you already have can be almost an art form. And an ability to do this regularly actually changes your brain's biochemistry. It's also important because at this phase of life, losses are inevitable. Gratitude is the ballast against these losses. Looking at what we have already and emphasizing the good is a crucial skill in aging well. That's not to say we're going to pretend that we're not grieving over profound losses. It's just that we need to balance the pain with our awareness and appreciation of our good fortune. After all, if you're listening to this talk, you most likely have a computer, internet, and a warm and safe place to listen. That puts us in the place of extreme privilege, and it's really easy to forget. Remember that most of our complaints are first world problems. There are specific ways to develop a personal gratitude practice, but for right now, I would encourage you to remind yourself daily to think of 3 or 4 things that you are sincerely appreciative of. The more personal and specific or quirky, the better. Thank you for food and a roof over my head is going to get boring pretty fast. I live in upstate New York, so whenever the sun comes out, I'm hugely appreciative. The next major factor in aging well, it really helps to believe in something bigger than ourselves. I'm not talking about organized religion. It's about seeing the complexity and mystery in the world and knowing that there are things we cannot see or understand as humans. You can have a spiritual connection with trees, with stars, with your garden, your pet, whatever feels right for you. It's an indescribable feeling that's very deep, and it touches your soul, reminding yourself that you are not ultimately in control of the really big things can be very freeing. Some people might say, give it to God, or divine lead the way. You can develop your own way to remember that you don't have to carry the whole weight of the world on your shoulders. Now let's talk about what all the research points to as super important in staying vital and happy. Living life in an engaged way, in a curious way, keeps us young. What gets us out of bed in the morning? A new hobby? Learning how to plant a garden? What brings life to your life? Finding purpose has been clearly shown to increase good health and long life. So keep your brain supple by being adventurous, trying new things, and having a curious attitude. Have you always wanted to learn to take pictures? How about watercolor? I live near Syracuse, and we have something called Oasis, which offers a wide array of interesting classes, and it's open to people over 50. It's very reasonably priced. The internet also has reasonable courses, like Udemy is a very good website. And as some of you know, I host a podcast called Zestful Aging. When I first started, there was so much to learn. I could almost feel my brain stretching. Recently, I tried something called a pound class. As a kid, I was more into reading and drawing, and I was usually picked last for sports teams. So I challenged myself to try this class, even though I was a little nervous. Well, during the class, I literally couldn't stop smiling because it was so tricky to stay in sync with the instructor, with the music, with the drumsticks. It's so much fun. Any ideas of what is the next biggest factor? Well, it's a word that I hadn't heard of. Generativity. But the concept is really quite simple. It's about being involved in activities that we will not be alive to appreciate. So we're talking about doing positive things for future generations, giving of ourselves. This creates a deep sense of fulfillment. I'm not talking about the giddy, euphoric happiness of our youth, but a more mellow, quiet, deep satisfaction. But be careful about volunteering just for volunteering's sake. Take some time and see what fits your disposition and your talents well. Be sure it's a good fit and it feels like you. Another vitally important habit is getting out in nature, even if it's just a walk around your neighborhood. There is so much evidence that being outside has benefits for the body and the mind. There's even a Japanese practice you may have heard of. It's known as forest bathing. And the science has shown being near trees and woods boosts our immune system just from walking around the trees. New studies are coming out every day showing the importance of being outside as much as possible. You know, we're not so far evolved from our ancestors, and our bodies were tuned to the outdoors. So those are some of my main tools: attitude, gratitude, and active engagement in daily life, generativity. But I thought it might be helpful to talk briefly about some regrets that people express at the very end of their lives so you could avoid the same regrets. See if any of these resonate with you. They're taken from a book written by a hospice nurse by the name of Bronnie Ware. She was a guest of mine on Zestful Aging Podcast. Bronnie gathered the regrets of her dying patients and wrote a very well-known book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. It's published in like 20 languages. The first wish, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life truer to myself, not the life others expected of me. This was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and they can look clearly back on their lives, it's easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. So it's so important to try and honor at least some of your dreams along the way. The moment we lose our health, it's too late. And health brings a freedom very few realize until we no longer have it. What would it mean to be more true to yourself? That's a question you might want to ponder. Wish number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. This came from every male patient that Bronnie nursed. They missed their children's youth and their partner's companionship. Are you still working so hard that you're missing the really important things in life? This is one that I struggle with. Assuming you're stable financially, what would it mean to give up some of your identity as a really hard worker? Some of these questions are very difficult. Wish number 3. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Many people suppress their feelings in order to keep peace with others, and they often developed illnesses relating to the bitterness and resentment that they carried as well. Can you identify with the impulse to keep your thoughts to yourself so you don't upset anyone? Most women of my generation can, although that's changing slowly. What would it mean to express your feelings? What would be the first little step? Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. This is a funny one because I've just recently become reconnected with a friend of mine. 25 years ago, we were friends, so I'm so happy about that. Many people don't realize the full benefits of staying in touch with friends until their dying days. It's not always possible to track people down. We get so caught up in our own lives and we let important friendships slide. There are many deep regrets about not giving friendships time and effort that they deserved. Everyone misses their friends when they're dying because it all comes down to love and relationships in the end. Number 5, I wish that I had let myself be happier. This is a surprisingly common one. Many people didn't realize until the end of their lives that happiness is a choice. When you're on your deathbed, what others think of you and what kind of car you drive is a long way from your mind. And wouldn't it be satisfying to know that you let yourself show people your true self? Perhaps you might consider prioritizing your happiness. We all say we want to be happy, but then we work too much, we hide our feelings, and we don't keep in touch with people who are dear to us. We have touched on several ways to improve your health now and for the future. So where would you like to start? I'd suggest starting small, and once you experience some success, tackle another piece of the puzzle. And remember, this is not graded and it's not about perfection. There are days where I work too much, I eat poorly, and I don't get a walk in. And I feel like crap. It feels good to take care of yourself. I'm hoping that you've learned some practices that you'll adopt and enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me for this brief presentation. I hope you'll use these life-enriching practices right away. We know they'll make a significant difference in your well-being now and as you age. And if you want to access the experience of my 30 plus years as a psychotherapist and my experience as a podcaster who's interviewed hundreds of guests on how to live their best lives, Zestful Aging Coaching will show you how to live a life with more health, less regret, and more purpose. I use an individualized approach informed by my 30 years as a therapist. Zestful Aging Coaching will help you live better, and you will be investing in a better older age. Now is the time. Contact me at info@zestfulaging.com.